Hello, everyone. It has been a while. I am coming at you with a new, new series. Hopefully, I want to be able to do this for every genre, but today would be nonfiction. This is going to be a video of my favorite nonfiction. These are all 5-star, and I just want to share them with you, and hopefully, that these are some new ones you can add to your reading. So, yeah, let's get started. I'm going to start with workbook type of nonfiction, more like self-help, but we're gonna start with. I'm gonna start with that first, and then I will continue with like other nonfiction. But the first one that I'm going to talk about today is called The Love Dare, and this is by Alex Kendrick. Or I believe it's Alex Kendrick, but it's by the Kendrick brothers. And this is based off of their movie Fireproof. And I'm sure you probably know the movie, but for those who may not know, Fireproof is about a marriage that is struggling. And you have the two characters who don't know Christ as their personal Lord and Savior going through their marriage. The man is a firefighter and the woman works at a hospital. And so it starts off with it being a pretty rocky marriage, wanting that divorce. And one of the friends of the man is kind of ministering to him a little bit, but his dad solely tells him, if you want to save your marriage, I have something that would help. And that's the gist of the movie. In the movie, this is a book that the father gives to his son. And so it's like a love dare. But each day, go ahead and open it. I wrote this in a separate journal, so I didn't write in this yet. But it has day one, and it gives a verse of the day and then little devotional. So you could do this like a devotional. But day one is love is patience, and goes through a little blurb, and then today's dare, and it tells you the first part of this dare is fairly simple. Although love is communicated in a number of ways, our words often reflect the condition of our hearts. For the next day, resolve to demonstrate patience and to say nothing negative to your spouse at all. If the temptation arises, choose not to say anything. It's better to hold your tongue than to say something you'll regret. And so you journal about it and you check off if you did that. And so it builds upon. So if you're familiar with the movie, it's very similar to that. I'm thinking it's 40 days. This is day 40, and it has an appendix. So yeah, so about 40 days of this, and I received it as a wedding gift for my sister, and I did this probably actually last year. We've been married almost 5 years, so it took a while before we actually get to this, but I enjoyed doing this devotion type reading, and it really stretched the way that I showed love to my husband, and just journaling it really even transformed a lot of the things that I know I struggled with within the marriage, as far as being able to give words of affirmation. That is something that I personally had to learn to say more of, because very often I tend to just assume, that they know that I love, or he knows that I love him, and sometimes I have to remind myself, wow, I need to tell them, or tell him, I say them, but tell him that I love him, and show different ways, and it really helped me personally go through and see the way that I exhibit love. And so if you are married, highly would recommend this. If you're not married, I mean, it is geared towards marriages. I think you could do it if you're not married. But I think you would get the best of it, like the best, a better outcome if you were married to do this. And you can do it for a devotional or in addition to Bible reading, but 5 stars, loved it, and I would highly recommend. Okay, so the second book I'm going to talk about is Discover Your God-Given Gifts by Don and Katie Fortune. And if you have seen my vlog videos for the Christmas season, I talked about this at the very end of the 4th one. And I really, really enjoyed this. I mean, that's a piece of paper in there, but tabbed that. And I actually spoke about this at our home group that we host once a month here at my house. And I also spoke at a youth event at my church with it. But this workbook, I think, is really worth it. If you are someone who really wants to hone in on your giftings that God has given you, or just even want to know what those giftings are, this book will walk you through it. It does have a lot, it is a workbook, so it does have like a lot of questions and little rates, like rating system to kind of help you find the giftings that you have. And then at the very back, it has like careers and occupations that could very much well suit your gifting. However, doesn't mean you're stuck in that job, because you're still a person who can, like, God still has seasons for us. And so you can, if you feel tug in this direction, go to that direction. But for those who don't know where to get started, go ahead and start out in the direction we typically see people with this gifting to be in. I really hope that makes sense. It doesn't cookie cutter you. I think a lot of people are leery about self-help books. At least I used to be very like, I don't know about self-help, because a lot of them just cookie cutter you, and then you don't always fit 100%. I don't find that with this book. This book is very well at saying you have all the gifts. God might grow in this certain area for you in this season, and you need to be, obedient and be prayerful. And so I enjoy that. It has scripture, and if you have children and you want to teach them the ways of the Lord and to use the gifts that they have, it has like a little section back there to help you view your child's like personality and what possible gifting they might like have, and so, or like what they function primarily in, because again, they all have the same giftings, but they primarily use one of those as like the way they see the world. And so it helps you identify that in your children. So I hope that all makes sense, but that's the book in case that's something you want to look into and even use if you want to teach on this too. I think this is a great start. Really helped me, and it's helping me with my own career change that I want to do, and I'm excited about it because I feel that this is a new season and that God is leading me towards. And so anyway, okay, so the next book I'm going to talk about is The Story of the Trapp Family Singers by Maria Augusta von Trapp. And this book I did read recently, and I got it from the library and absolutely adored the book. This book was this book inspired the story, the movie The Sound of Music. So if that is a movie you've seen, then it kind of parallels with the book. But for those who may not know the book, it is about a woman who wants to become a nun, and she instead marries into a family with like 7 children, I believe, and it ends up having 2 children in addition to this family that she married into. And it just goes about their lives, about what like trials, testimonies that have happened to them. They lived in Austria during World War II, and so it follows through that in the history of what was going on in the country, and then their plight to America and how they worked here during the war and everything. And so it was, again, it was a great book. If you love music, if you love the movie The Sound of Music, if you like reading about testimony and just going through hardships but relying on God, it's a fantastic read. I enjoyed much of it. I enjoyed even learning how they celebrated the holidays like Easter and Christmas and just these traditions, and it felt really cozy, and it was very very well written too, and so I would recommend that book. All right, the next book that I'm going to talk about is Mission Drift, and this is by Peter Greer and Chris Horst, and currently this is a reread for me. It talks about the unspoken crisis facing, leaders, churches, organizations, charities. Yeah, the unspoken crisis facing leaders, charities, and churches. And this is a phenomenal book too. I am currently reading it, and that's where I am right now. And so about halfway through the book, and I'm reading it like it's fiction, and it's an easy read. Really, like marked it and everything, but this, and I'll talk more about this book in my wrap up, but if you find yourself in a leadership position or in wanting to start an organization or business or being a part of a ministry, I would highly recommend reading this. It does talk about how organizations or people tend to drift slowly away from their mission statement or the reason why they're doing this, like this ministry or this job, and it just breaks down like why that is, and I'll talk more about this in the wrap up, but I'm loving it. This is speaking a lot. Okay, so the next book is I Will Always Write Back, How One Letter Changed 2 Lives by Caitlin Alifarinka and Martin Ganda with Liz Welch. And this is, I probably butchered the name, but there it is, so you can see it better. And oh my goodness, this was such a cute read. Not everything in this book is like, happy, but it was cute. Like how the relationship between the two in this book, like how the relationship blossomed. But this story is a true story, and it's about a young girl who is, I think, in 8th grade, and they had an assignment at school to write letters to a pen pal across the world, and she ended up picking Zimbabwe because it was the most exotic name up there on the board for her to pick. And so she picked Zimbabwe and starts to do this pen pal, write a letter to a young boy or to a person across the world, and the letter happens to get to this young boy, and They correspond through the school year, but it turned out to be more than just an assignment. They started to keep track of just each other, and as the years go on, how their relationship starts to grow, and like she learned so much about what was going on during the time in Zimbabwe. They were struggling economically, and there was just like she had true concerns for this guy, and the guy's name is Martin. Sorry, Martin and Caitlin. But Martin would always just try to find a way to write back. There would be times where he didn't have enough money for postage, but he would always try to find a way to write back to her, no matter what. And it would be months or maybe even a year, I think was the longest, but he would always find a way. And she never knew. She just thought he was busy, but not really understanding the gravity of the situation of how he was living, and then how she finds out, and it just goes from there. And it's a heartfelt book. It's got these pictures, I think, it's like pictures in the back, and like you kind of grow up with them in a way, because it does go through their adult years too a little bit. So anyway, this is a great book, heartfelt book, would recommend, and one of my favorites. So all right, we have 2 more books. The next book that I want to talk about is The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. And I saw the movie before I read the book. Usually I like to read the book before I watch the movie. But the movie really captivated me, and I wanted to read from him. And he's a favorite I think Oshina talked about him a little bit, or talked about reading other books by him. But this book is very well researched, like how Lee Strobel, who was an atheist, went to find truth in the gospel, or rather wanted to disprove the gospel, and that was how he set out on this adventure. And how he would talk to leading experts, how he would even do research on him, on some passages even. And I'm sorry, I don't know where I left off, but just how Lee Strobel would research and find, trying to find the truth about, was the gospel correct? Was this Jesus a real person? And what, did he really die? Did he really resurrect from the dead? And how do we know? And so it goes through that, and it does go through I think some court cases as well, secular court cases, and kind of has some kind of comparison, or it talks about legal jargon a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's super hard to understand. I felt like it was very informative, but very easy to kind of read through. And so it was interesting even for me. It spoke to me more so as a Christian, because of just the evidence that he found, or the research that he did, that answered some questions that I may had, but didn't really had a solid answer for. That makes sense. I mean, there are some times in I don't know for you, but there are some times in my faith where there are certain questions where I'm I'm not really sure how, but I guess that's the faith building, where you're just but I know that this is true. Now, the research I haven't done on my own, but I know it's true. But it was cool to hear the research that backs up that faith, And so this book did minister to me with that, and so would recommend as well. Okay, final book. And this one is going to be hard for me to pronounce the name. Is Nabil Qureshi. I tried Qureshi. But yeah, that is the name of the author. The title is Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. A devout Muslim encounters Christianity. This book is really good. It talks about Nabil's walk, and he grew up Muslim, very devout, very like on fire, wanting to seek, God, or like they say Allah, but like really wanting to seek him. But as he is just like this devout person, one of the things that their faith, they'll talk about Muslim faith and like, or the Muslim religion and like the way they believe things, and different like attributes that they should express and all of that. But he talks about how one of the things that they are taught is to preach their version of like preach their religion, try to get more people into their religion. And so how he went to it talks about how he went to college and he met this guy, and I believe it was his roommate, but his roommate was Christian, and they had really a great like relationship happening first, and it was like his intention was to convert him to Muslim to Islam, and so but he develops this relationship, and I believe the guy's name is David, but he brings up, I think, about Christianity and has like those debates, but because of their relationship, they had a better like understanding to where they could hear from each other. So I guess it's like because of their relationship, they were able to talk about it in more in depth and detail without feeling super standoffish, and that really opened doors for them to really get down to deeper things. And so Nabil would have questions for his roommate, and his roommate would take the time to like think on the questions and then come back and say, this is what, from what I've researched and prayed, like this is what I can answer them with. And it gets more and more into like the testimony of how Nabil is searching, and then meeting other people who were theologians or just people more like deep rooted in Christianity, and just like how he would meet with them and how he would debate with them and how he would bring his father when he could, because he at one point is just like, I don't have all the answers, but I know my dad does. So then he brings his father into the mix, and how they would debate, but like he was just very much like, can you prove it? And there was a point in the relationship, or a point in the book, to where his father would just be like, this is the end all be all. Doesn't matter if it contradicts or I don't really have an answer, but that's just what we think. And he's just like, wait a minute, but I thought there was like a solid thing we could, like solid evidence that we can pull out, and it wasn't enough for him. So it kept him on this journey of still seeking. And anyway, so this whole book is just how he came to the faith, and it is powerful. It is very thought-provoking, and I would recommend this book. It is a great read. It's not hard to understand. I mean, like The Case for Christ, it has a lot of like that research and that terminology, and for this, it's more of like his testimony and how God spoke to him, and God spoke to him in interesting ways. And yeah, anyway, that's the book, and I would recommend it. so that was my stack of books of nonfictions that are all 5 stars for me, and I really hope that one of these would speak to you and maybe pick up. And yeah, if there is anything, any other nonfictions that even you would like to recommend for me to read, I would be more than happy to do that. I know my channel is a lot with historical fiction, but I also found that I'm really enjoying nonfiction. So I am open to any other nonfiction books. Feel free to let me know if any of these books you have read, what you thought of them, or if there is a book that you are planning from this list that you would like to read. But yeah, real quick, I want to talk about how my channel might start to look like. I want to get into a good filming schedule, and I am still seeing what days would work for that, but as of now I'm leaning towards Tuesdays and Thursdays to have my videos uploaded, but that might change. I'm currently applying for a job, but I want to be able to have a consistent schedule so that my followers will be able to know when they could expect a video from me. I'm also currently starting my favorites in these categories series, and then hopefully I will have a more other content for you that you may enjoy. But if there is other content that you would like to see from me, please don't hesitate to put it in the comments down below. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all the housekeeping I have. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.